Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Heather Bennett, your host for the Growth Plus Exit podcast, featuring middle market business owners talking about founding, growing, scaling, and exiting their businesses on their own terms. Past guests include Kelly Schrod, John Fairclough, and Andy Crestodino. To learn more about these guests, listen to their episodes on Spotify, Apple, Audible, and all of the platforms that the Growth Plus Exit podcast is on. This episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a team of seasoned C-suite executives helping CEOs and business owners of privately held companies grow, de-risk, and exit their businesses successfully. Newport LLC is the winner of the prestigious Inc. Magazine Power Partner Award, a list of elite B2B companies from across the globe. To see the entire list, visit inc.com/Power Partner Awards. To learn more about Newport, visit us at newportllc.com or, of course, find us on LinkedIn. Before introducing today's guests, I would like to thank John Toronto and Fred Fink for introducing us. You can find John and Fred on LinkedIn or the Newport website. Today's guest is Jeff Aplin. Jeff Aplin is the CEO of Aplin, a national Canadian staffing firm recognized as a platinum member of Canada's best managed companies. He previously worked as a management consultant with Deloitte, specializing in strategy and operations, and holds an MBA from the University of Calgary, along with a certified management consulting designation. Jeff is the recipient of the Business in Calgary Leaders Award and a Prairies finalist for the EY Entrepreneur of the Year. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Heather.
So let's get right to it. How did you get started? Where did Aplin come from? What was the beginning of this business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the genesis of the business is it was a family business. So it was founded by my father in the house that I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, back in 1975. It was not a child prodigy. It was my dad at the time found himself unemployed. And he'd always wanted to start a business. So he thought, well, if I start one now and I fail, all other things being equal. So it was all upside. And that's really when he started the business. And it started off as a staffing business for mainframe computer job categories like punch card operators and systems analysts and programmers and stuff for the large mainframe IBM iron kind of computers at that time. So I really grew up around the business, and then after business school, as you mentioned, I was fortunate to get recruited by Deloitte Consulting and had a great experience there. And then after that, I was kind of looking for a business to get into for myself. And Dad said, "Son, why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "The reason is, Dad, because I love you and I want to keep loving you. And, I'm not sure me working for you is the best idea for our family." But with that said, I said, if there's an opportunity to transition the business, I'd move heaven and earth for that. And he said, well, let me think about it. And he thought about it for about 6 months. And after that, we started really talking about the possibility to transition the business really intergenerationally. And we worked out a plan for me to kind of buy shares over time, which we did. So really, for me, as the second generation, I bought the business from my dad over about a 10-year period. So that's really how I ended up owning it.
Yeah, and so that's a very interesting, very thoughtful and professional way to do a succession plan. Shows a lot of foresight on both your dad's behalf. It's so during those 10 years, what was bumpy about that process, or what did you learn that you would recommend for other families who want to do a successful succession to the next generation?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a rich, a lot of lessons and a lot of experience there for sure on things to do and not to do. And I think one of the things I think I'm most proud about is we pretty early on realized and were aware that we needed a communication system to make it work, kind of in the family dynamics as well as kind of as business partners. And so what we did is we ended up with the system, which was just the hats. Like, on Wednesday, we're going to have a business partner meeting. So we'll put our business partner hat on. But on Saturday, the family barbecue, we're family, we're father and son. And, if it was like, look, after the barbecue, let's go for a walk down to the lake and have a business meeting, we'll consciously do that afterwards. And we were very aware of that. And I give my dad a ton of credit at the time as a founder, a passionate founder, for really respecting that, so that we could balance and make it work as a family, but also in the business arena, because that's not easy. And I think there's so many examples where families working together, business families, it can really damage the family or relationships and the business. There's all kinds of sort of tragic stories about that, unfortunately. So yeah, that was something that we did, and I think that's just learned from experience on things that you know having a meal together and saying like what's going on in Toronto, like we're off budget there, whatever. And I'm like, we need to pass the potatoes or whatever. So those are we kind of became aware that we needed a communication system, and that worked really well in our case.
I love that. Communication is such an important part of that. There's a great book. I'm actually talking to that author later today called Every Family's Business, where it talks about the 12 things you need to discuss every year.
That's Tom Dean's, right?
Oh, Tom. Okay, excellent. All right.
I've read that book, and I've actually heard Tom speak at some point a long time ago. So yeah,
I have a one-on-one call with him later today, so I'll tell him that you read his book. So
book. It's a great read. But yeah, that's also, I think, to your question, Heather, like there was a lot of education effort over a sustained period of time to say, what can we do to take personal responsibility as individuals in a family and in a business to make it work and put the company interests first, as best we can, and keep that eye on the prize of growing the business, and put that as the sort of the guiding light. So that on all the, and reading that book, and organizations that support families doing business together, and all the advisors, and I mean there's a whole community that's there that supports that's very valuable from our experience.
absolutely. And okay, so the keys are being handed over. You've done your 10 years of buying the business. What changed from when your dad was even a part owner to you fully owning the business?
Yeah, I mean, we changed. We tried to maintain our, being faithful to our kind of our core values, and core purpose, but really we had to change almost everything operationally and strategically about the business. I mean, it's obviously things change over the years, and every business has a life cycle, and quite frankly, at that time, it was clear to me that the business was in a sort of a downward spiral, because it had held on to a lot of business practices that really no longer were going to scale up the business going forward. So I used to call them time bombs, where I would kind of seek them out, or I'd become aware of them and say, gee, that's not good. Like, I'm going to have to diffuse that bomb, or else it's going to go off. And I need to get rid of that, or I need to change out those people, or whatever the case may be. So really, after I acquired the business and we did the full legal change of control and all that stuff, then at that point I realized we needed to change our strategy from really a placement agency, which was transactional, to more of a scalable, repeatable model based on reoccurring revenue in temporary and contract billable hours. So we went from really having zero recurring revenue to now we're about 75% of our 110 million annual revenue is reoccurring in the form of temporary and contract billable hours. So that was really a reimagining of the business model and starting from scratch and just kind of replacing that with a model that's going to push the business forward and have a healthy company into the future. So there's a lot of changes, a lot of grind, a lot of effort to kind of undo things that needed to be dealt with and addressed that were legacy that no longer served the business, and kind of deal with those and have the courage to do that, and then replace it and reimagine it with a model that's going to thrive going forward.
Excellent, excellent. And so doing all this, so you're running the business. How are you choosing who's going to help you do that? I would imagine that you had to hire some people to help you move the business in the right direction, because you can't diffuse all those risks by yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been really fortunate over the years to work with, fantastic people that could really honestly work at many, many places, but choose to kind of have their professional home with Aplin. And so our executive leadership team, we kind of brought that together, and used the kind of the Patrick Lencioni team one kind of thinking and approach to that to look at what's in the best interest of the company. The other really a defining moment for me was promoting Sarah Tokar to the role of president, and having her take on that role. I retained the CEO role, so I would look more external at acquisition targets to accelerate growth, capital partners, other industry trends like technology disruption. But having that president look internally at operational excellence, culture, people, alignment with incentives and business objectives, stuff like that. She's been fantastic, and that's been I think it was a very important move for the long-term success of the company.
Okay, so you talked about when you were first running things, you felt like it was in a downward spiral. What triggers or what signs or flags did you see when you knew that things had turned around? Like what was the turning point, and how did you get there to turn around the company?
Yeah. One example that really pops to mind, Heather, is, when I talk about that downward spiral, it was a case where, unfortunately, people would put, kind of their self-interest, like commissions, ahead of the customer's interest. And I knew that was, you're dead if you don't deal with that as a business. So we definitely had that. We had a lot of people that were kind of in it for their own commission, and not necessarily for, the highest and best outcome of the customer. So we had to get rid of those people and really change the culture. That was hard. And we brought in a model which we call the client-centric model, which was really selling as a team sport. It involves not only the sales team, of course, and our delivery team for our service, but also our back office for alignment with collections, and executive sponsors, and all of that. So it sort of expanded. It put the customer right front and center of what we think, say, and do, and say, how do we add the maximum amount of value to these customers as an organization, and that really helped. And when I started hearing, our managers and our account managers and our people refer to that client-centric model, and let's stop and think about this, what's in the best interest for the customer. That's when I thought, okay, we're starting to turn the corner and go into an upward spiral.
Excellent. Such good advice. So the company's transitioned, moved on, and what was the trigger for you seeking a capital partner?
That's a great question. I mean, yeah, we had done a few acquisitions to accelerate growth coming out of the pandemic. So I guess, kind of from 2021 to 2025, We made a number of moves, just buying other companies to accelerate growth because the market was after 2022, which was a very good year. 23, 24, 25 were pretty lackluster, kind of stagnant markets. So we weren't seeing a lot of organic growth. So I said, well, we need to take advantage of that and try to accelerate through mergers and acquisitions, which we did. But we did that all on our own, independently, and then with some support with the senior bank. So that led us to the point where we're saying, okay, we're getting better at identifying good targets to buy. We're refining the thesis on where the value creation is going to be from the combination of the two businesses, and then the integration of people and systems. We'd done that a few times and started to say, okay, we're exercising some muscle there. But it really, we could accelerate and grow a lot faster if we brought in a capital partner and kind of recapitalize, start with a new balance sheet, and then go from there. So that was the thinking about it. And I probably spent, through that time, probably a solid amount of my proportion of my time for about 2 years, probably at least learning about private capital markets, attending conferences, including Newport conferences like the Founder Friendly Capital Conference that Doug Tatum chaired, and other ways to learn about the way that capital markets work for private enterprise. And then we selected an investment banker, which was Newport. Shout out to John Toronto and Fred Fink, who did an outstanding job for us and led to a terrific outcome. So we ended up picking that advisor and then running a process that led to the partnership that we have today, which we're really, really thrilled about.
Excellent. And what were you looking for with that process? Like, who is going to help you get through choosing the capital partner? Like, who were you looking for? Like, what made you understand, like, these are the people who are going to help me get through this? And then secondly, when you were having to choose a capital partner, what were you looking for in that organization?
Yeah. Definitely talking to a lot of advisors, a lot of other entrepreneurs, just about experience share, good, bad, ugly experiences they've had with private equity partners, or going through other partnerships, mergers and acquisitions, all of that kind of experience. And so I just listened a lot to people's experience and really paid attention to that. And then I started to realize what was going to work well for our company and what the sort of the key ingredients for success for a new partnership were going to be. Like I said, we ran a robust process just to select an investment banker. Like I said, which led to us selecting Newport, and then of course likewise an even more thorough process to find a capital partner. So I mean, I talked to a lot of advisors, talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and just listened to people's experience and thought, what can we learn from that?
Yeah, there's the two things you mentioned I think are really important to point out. One is the need to seek information and really listen and learn. And then secondly, understanding that you were trying to find the right fit for your company. Like it really is trying to matchmake who's going to do a great job for your business specifically. And I think that's so very important, both in who's going to help you get there, the investment banking team, but then also with choosing a capital partner. It's not something to be taken lightly, and the right fit for someone else may not be the right fit for you, which is so good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the whole, like learning about the capital market, I mean, it's a whole other, area of learning. And it's an uphill climb for a lot of entrepreneurs to learn that. Certainly was for me. So you kind of have to really stay focused on that over time to try to figure it out, because it is hard to navigate. And it can be confusing to understand. But it's also, I think, really, really important to have some understanding of it, but also really rely on your trusted advisors to help navigate that path. But yeah, to echo your point, I was in a full circle moment. I was invited by Deloitte to attend the Deloitte Entrepreneur Summit in Dallas, which is I would categorize essentially as speed dating entrepreneurs, speed dating private equity partners for a couple of days. And it was a great experience. I learned a ton. Super grateful to Deloitte for that opportunity. Um, and just like learning about, you sit down and go like, well, what's your fund or what's this? And it's just amazing how diverse the sources of capital are, what they're looking for, where the capital's provided by, their strategies, what the targets of investment, like just so many layers of complexity to it. And it just really shows that, having going slow if possible, but having a really, a trusted team of advisors is absolutely critical.
I would agree with that. And so what surprised you about the due diligence process? Because that can, I often warn business owners that that's actually a full-time job practically. So I love that you have a president that you can rely on to run the company while you're doing this, you're focusing on this capital process. So what surprised you about due diligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think the for the most part, I knew it was going to be very intense, and it certainly was. Um, and I was prepared for that. But what I wasn't prepared for, I think, was the like the level of minutia that it can get into, um, and even asking, like why would this, like, under what circumstances would this even matter? But not getting a great answer for that, but they just want to look or whatever. So that's probably the thing that I would not necessarily surprised, but puzzled by. There's certain things I was puzzled by. I'll give you an example, like our with our landlords. So we have about 8 offices across Canada that we lease from various landlords. And so, it's kind of understandable for me that there'd be a change of control provision around those leases and getting consent for that. But it can take, landlords are slow, and it can take months. These are big institutional landlords a lot of the time, so it takes a long time. But then, like, there's some other things where like the capital partners bank would say, like, well, would you subordinate your security interest under the lease to, like, the furniture and the desks and stuff? And the landlord's like, no, like, why would we? Right? Like, we had this on the lease. And then, so, like, they're getting to, like, levels of that you're going like, why does this matter? Right. And ultimately it all gets sorted out. But those are the things where the rabbit hole went really deep into certain things for no consequence, but just like a lot of activity, and seemed like kind of spinning our wheels a bit on some of the due diligence.
Okay, so we're past the transaction. You're still leading the company, and what's your vision for the company going forward for Aplin?
Yeah, I mean, we have a tremendous opportunity to grow in Canada, North America. Our organic growth now is kicking into a better gear. I think with our improved capability from the acquisitions, and then our acquisition pipeline is like, it's like bursting full. Like, we have a really good pipeline of I think extremely high caliber um, target companies that we may want to add on to our platform. And so really, it's very exciting just to think about the growth and say, like, let's discover how far we can go with the company, with improved sort of governance and improved access to capital, some improved scrutiny of our strategy. So things like that, and say, like, let's go, like how far can we take this? And that's very exciting, and I think that's motivating for a lot of people. People like to be part of a winning team that's growing, creating opportunities, career opportunities, development opportunities for our people. And Yeah, so that's really our vision, is to just expand the be the platform of choice for talent acquisition in the professional job categories in Canada, and really become a even more of a market leader nationally in Canada for that.
Excellent, excellent. So, who has inspired you over the years? You talked about like learning entrepreneurship literally in the household you grew up in. So maybe start there and then continue on.
Absolutely.
Who's inspired you?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. My father, may rest in peace. Like he was just such a great human being. And I was really fortunate to be close with my dad. So that was, he's definitely, remains an inspiration for me, and certainly was, his passion for the business and entrepreneurial spirit. Um, and then, yeah, I've always admired, people that have, from experience and otherwise kind of wrap their heads around like leadership topics. I would say, John C. Maxwell is one that comes to mind, that is as a source of, whenever I read one of his books or listen to some of his podcasts, or his company's content now, it's I just always benefit from it, and I just I admire that you can provide that kind of a perspective on a topic like leadership over really decades, and still be very relevant. And so that's inspiring to me. And just entrepreneurs in general. I love entrepreneurs. The decisive action that people take, and the risks, and frankly the pain and the grind, and all that goes with it, good and bad. It's not easy, but it's also, it just is, it's just a valuable role that in our society, that whether it's creating employment and creating meaningful work for people to do, and the nobility around that, or just serving clients in a way that is serving as best you can in the way that they prefer to be served. Like all of that is inspiring to me, that the work that entrepreneurs do day in, day out to survive, and then also build a successful company.
That's awesome. So you talk about client-centric. What do you think are the key things about a client-centric strategy that business owners need to incorporate in order for it to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, every business is going to be a little different. So I would answer that question by saying that's the questions you ask to your ideal clients or customers. And I would ask them, what do you like about us? What do we do well that you like about our service or our product? What could be better about our service or our product? And really listen to both of those. And then two other things is, what can we do to earn more of your business? And you might be very surprised. I've been very surprised sometimes at the answers that I get from customers on that. And then the last one is, what can we do to screw it up and lose you as a customer? Because we don't want to do that. And typically they'll tell you. And typically, from my experience, they're impressed that you're asking, because most businesses don't ask. They're too busy, in the day to day. But really, yeah, those four things, you can apply that to almost any business, or a service or product, and that can sort of be a compass for where you take your next decision.
Okay. And as a leader, how do you inspire? You said there was a transition in your culture for your company. How do you inspire the employees and the staff of a company to embrace client-centric strategy?
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to purpose. And I mean, the underlying purpose, we call it the triple win, which is, when we place somebody into a new gig or a new job opportunity, that's a win for them, but it's also a win for their employer, that team that gets to add to their team. And then that's, we get paid to do that. So it's a win-win-win. And that's somewhat unique, that there's, all three people really benefit in that winning way. and that's meaningful. That sort of goes to leaving people better than you find them, is as much as possible through the course of business. And um, the people that really do well with our company over time and fit our culture, that matters to them. And that's also kind of speaks to the change in culture that we needed. Um, but yeah, that I think it's more trying to stay on point with your purpose, and trying to connect that to what is that, how does that matter day to day? Like if we place more people win, clients win, we win, and the company grows. So that's at a kind of a high level. That's kind of what we talk about. That hopefully gets people to come to work every day and do a great job.
Excellent. Excellent. So, who are your mentors and what's the best advice you've ever gotten from them?
Oh boy. I mean, I'm a big believer in the peer group model. So I've been involved with all kinds of entrepreneur CEO peer groups, through EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, through Tech, the Executive Committee, which is the Vistage, um, and some other ones as well. That like some were self-formed, some were other less formal, some were formal with the moderator. But that peer group provides a lot of mentorship, and also a place to go with decisions that you can't necessarily bring home to to my wife, my spouse, or other family members. That it wouldn't be fair to kind of burden them with that, and also not necessarily information or decisions that you want to put onto the balance of your management team. So having a place for that to go, I think, is really important for mental health, stress management, um, and feedback too. Like from a group, a room that when there's trust in the room. So that I get a lot of mentorship from those kind of groups. And then just I think there's just so many people I've benefited from listening to. Like it's just such a long list. But people that have taught something or written something, and answered questions. I mean, it's a long list. But I think interacting with people and just saying, hey, I liked this about your message, or whatever it is, whatever content it may be, and just saying like, yeah, what do you think about this? Um, am I on the right track? And just I think there's a lot of mentorship that can be people can benefit from if they're paying attention.
Excellent. No, and I love that lifelong learning and the peer seeking advice and in a peer group. It's excellent, absolutely excellent. So what are a few to be successful, to run this company well, to handle the capital, all of the things you've done? What are a few of your daily rituals that help you be successful and get ready to attack the day?
Two things, one pretty traditional, I'd say, and one maybe less traditional, perhaps. But I'm just on a practical day-to-day level. I'm a big fan of just the old to-do list. What are the top three things, or if I only do one thing really well today, like what is that one thing I have to really nail today? Because there's so much competition for your time, and it can be a trap to fall into trying to get 20 things done. But maybe you can delegate those. Maybe you got to focus on just what you can only do. So I'm a big fan of just the old-fashioned to-do list. The other thing is meditation. I find the days that I meditate in the morning, even just for 5 to 20 minutes, sets me on a much better path for the rest of my day, and brings me a lot of clarity and sort of peace on what my priorities need to be that day. And it certainly helps my stress. And yeah, so I would say that kind of mindfulness, and then the old fashioned to-do list to get through it, because it's motivating to see the progress when you're working things off your list.
Excellent. Yeah, I recommend both of those to a lot of the business owners and CEOs I work with. In fact, I just wrote a blog or something on LinkedIn about that, specifically saying, what is the one thing you need to do today that will allow you to go to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
Which is one way of looking at it, but it really does help you focus and prioritize what is very important. I have one last question to ask, but before I ask it, I want to point people to your website at aplin.com, or of course, to reach out to you on LinkedIn. So, final question: what is a hard lesson that you've learned while starting and growing your business that you would like to share to help other CEOs and business owners avoid maybe some of that discomfort and pain that you've mentioned?
Okay, then it's about people, and it's the bigger the dream, the more important the team. That's what I've learned. If you really want to kind of reach for the stars, you're going to need a really good team, and you're going to have to be really honest with yourself about your team, and who's on it, and who need to make way for someone better to come on. And those can be really tough, really gut wrenching, emotional, difficult, stressful decisions about people. But yeah, the bigger the dream, the more important the team. That's that is the one, a very truthful part of my experience.
Excellent.
Both ways, the good way and the bad way. Yeah, I've lived both.
Excellent. I've been talking with Jeff Aplin, CEO of Aplin. Jeff, thank you so much for sharing your story and experience.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Heather. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoyed this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.